In the former Soviet Union, music from the West was strictly prohibited, but some very creative Soviets found a way around this. They made their own records using discarded medical x-rays and sold these so-called bone records on the black market. Let's check one out. Hi, my name is Frank. Welcome back to Channel 33 RPM, your channel for vinyl, gear, and more. I recently picked up one of those X-ray records on eBay. There are a lot of modern counterfeits, but I'm pretty sure this one is legit. I'll tell you why coming up, but first a little bit of a background on these bone records. In the Soviet Union, owning or listening to Western music and even some domestic music was prohibited. Jazz, for example, was a big no-no, as was doo-wop, rock and roll, and even Latin music. Of course, there was still demand for this sort of stuff, and well, where there's a will, there's a way. In the early 1950s, bold bootleggers, intrepid music fans, and those just looking to make a quick buck defied censors and began to etch popular music into medical x-rays using homemade record lathes. They would pick up discarded x-rays from hospitals and clinics, cut them by hand into 7-inch or so discs, and burn center spindle holes using lit cigarettes. The record lathes, by the way, were fashioned from old phonograph players. Creating these bone records was a time-consuming process, but it worked. The discs, often referred to as music on ribs or jazz on bones, were playable on standard record players at 78 RPM. The records themselves did not sound great, as you will hear for yourself coming up in this video. The grooves were very shallow, and these records could only be played 10 or 12 times. Despite that, people loved them. Bone records were widely sold and distributed on the black market by covert salesmen. Guys would stand on dark street corners peddling these homemade records, often with several concealed in their sleeves or jackets. Getting caught selling this contraband, of course, was a serious offense and landed some bootleggers in prison. X-ray records remained pretty popular in the Soviet Union until the late 1960s, when bootlegged music began to be sold on reel-to-reel tape. If you look on eBay, there are plenty of these X-ray records for sale, but be careful because some of them may be counterfeit. And by that I mean they were produced in modern times and made to look like old Soviet X-ray records in order for the seller to make a quick buck. I'm pretty sure this one is original. It's quite dirty, but it's also very brittle, which is one sign of authenticity. I also found this post on Reddit. The author warns that fakes are often too perfect in appearance, nicely rounded with cool X-ray images. The fakes also tend to feature more of the well-known songs. Oh, and if it plays at 33 RPM, it ain't the real thing. Authentic X-ray records played at 78 RPM. Regardless, I think this record is pretty cool and it has some little touches which really add to the experience. For example, there's some writing right here and it's in Russian, and I can't read Russian, but I asked my friend Max to translate it, and he said in English it reads "I dreamed" or "I had a dream." I posted about that on Facebook, and Barina did some internet sleuthing, and she figures the song on this album may actually be "I Dreamed," which was released in 1956 by Betty Johnson. The reason I don't know what's on here is because I haven't actually heard this record. Now, it plays at 78 RPM. My turntable is capable of playing at 33 and 45. Despite this, I figured I'd throw it on the turntable anyway to see what it sounds like. So I placed it on the platter very carefully, and I brought the tone arm over, but when I lowered the tone arm, the needle would not track the grooves. It kind of just scratched its way across the record. So I immediately lifted the tone arm up and kind of took the record off. I didn't want to damage this record. And unfortunately, just that little bit actually did cause a little bit of damage to the center hole. You can see right there, kind of cracked a little bit. And again, that just speaks to the age of this record and how brittle it is. So regardless, I mean, to me, I view this as more of a historic artifact than anything, so I'm going to throw it in a frame and put up on my wall, which is really where I think it belongs. The other thing I should mention, which I haven't in this video, is that if you look at this record and if you hold it up to the light, you can clearly see that this is an X-ray of some ribs or someone's rib cage or something's rib cage, which is also pretty cool, I think. There is an entire website, xrayaudio.com, dedicated to these Soviet artifacts, and there are tons and tons of audio samples. We will check out one here briefly. The recording begins with an announcement, so it's probably safe to assume that the music that followed was recorded from radio.
Неаполитанская песня «Нинесса». Музыка Перголей. Исполняют Александр Станьков у рояля Татьяна Степановна Малинина.
If you want to hear more, check out this website after you watch this video. What are some of the weird and oddball records in your collection? Do you want to see more of the rare and unusual records from my collection? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you dug this video. Dear 33ers, until next time, keep on spinning.